Alrighty, thank you everybody for tuning in to this, the 26th iteration of the Konoha Companion. This is Joshua. I'm your Konoha Companion, as always, and on this episode we're going to be covering Season 1, Episode 25 of Naruto, entitled The 10th Question, All or Nothing. Now, before we dive off into that, I'm going to go over what happened on the previous episode kind of quickly. Ibiki kicked off the exams by laying down the law. He told the Sound Shinobi guys to stop their games and informs everyone no fighting unless he says so. He then has everyone go to the testing room for the written part of the exam. Knowing that there's going to be a written part of the exam sends Naruto into a panic because he's an idiot who can't pass a written test to save his life. Ibiki explains the 3 rules of the test to everyone in the testing room. Rule 1 is conducting on point. Rule 1 is that they're going to be conducting a 1-point reduction system. A point is deducted from a perfect 10 for each wrong answer. Rule 2 is that teams pass or fail based on total scores of the squadlings. Rule 3 is that there are sentinels watching for cheaters and that each time you get caught cheating, you lose 2 points. Getting caught 5 times gets you dismissed before the tests are even scored. The test starts and everyone is in a panic because of how hard the test is, right? Like it's incredibly hard. Everyone's like, what the fuck? Naruto immediately realizes that he is doomed. Before long, everyone catches on that it's actually a test to determine how effectively they can gather information in a difficult environment because no one knows these answers. Several of the ninja use their cool techniques to gather info, right? Gaara uses his Sandai, Kiba uses Akamaru, Shino uses his bugs, Team Guy has Tenten using her ninja tools, Neji uses his Byakugan, Sasuke uses his Sharingan, Sakura actually just uses her big brain and does the test. Once Sakura gets enough of the test done, Ino mind transfers into Sakura and just copies her answers like a goon. Shout out Hinata, who lets Naruto cheat, or at least tries to, because she has a crush on him. Tons and tons of teams get disqualified throughout this process. Kankuro asks to go to the restroom, and a sentinel takes him to the restroom, but it's revealed that the sentinel is actually Kankuro's puppet Crow. Naruto looks up at the clock and realizes he hasn't answered a single question and there's only 20 minutes left. And it's all riding on the last question that gets revealed when there's only 15 minutes left. Naruto realizes he's going to have to hope he can get the 10th question correct in order to save his entire team from failing, and the episode ends. Right? And so this episode starts with Ibiki standing up at the front of the room and he cracks a wicked smile and he thinks, now that we've weeded out most of the hopeless cases, 15 minutes to go, time for the main event. Ibiki then announces to the room, all right, listen up. Here's the 10th and final question. Naruto anxiously grasps his pencil and thinks, here we go, everything's writing on this one, believe it. At this point, the title slide comes in and Naruto reads, the 10th question, all or nothing. It briefly shows us the sentinels watching diligently, and we then get to hear some of Sasuke's internal dialogue as he's thinking, in regards to Ibiki, man, this guy is full of himself. Sakura then thinks, this is it, the final obstacle. Temari thinks, hurry up, Kankuro, what good is your cheat sheet going to be if you miss the 10th question? Ibiki then continues, but before I give you the question, there are some more rules you need to be aware of. And in this moment, Konkuro walks back with Crow, posing as a sentinel. Ibiki remarks, oh, made it just in time. I hope you found your trip to the bathroom enlightening. And Konkuro immediately panics internally, thinking he's seen through Crow's disguise. He's on to us. Ibiki then continues, well, take your seat. And Konkuro pulls it together and walks down the aisle, and as he passes Temari, he drops a tiny little scroll, which I guess is effectively a cheat sheet, onto her desk without anybody noticing. Ibiki steps up and continues, these rules are unique to question 10. Listen carefully and try not to let them frighten you. We then go to Asuma, Kakashi, and Kurenai, who are sitting around a lounge area in the academy, where Kakashi remarks, it's quiet without the rookies around. I almost miss them. Asuma responds while smoking a cigarette, characteristically, don't worry, chances are they'll be back sooner than you think. Kakashi asks, why is that? Asuma ashes his cigarette, cool guy style, and remarks, I heard their first examiner this year is Ibiki. And Kakashi immediately realizes what's going on, and he thinks to himself, so already their chances of passing look iffy. He then remarks, great, sticking them with that sadist right off the bat. And so it's wild, right? Our poor Team 7 has had the hardest path, right? Kakashi is the teacher who never passes anybody. They're literally his first squad. And then now they're with this dude, Ibiki, who's oh no, that's not the examiner you want, right? They just keep getting the guys that you don't want throughout their entire come up. But at this point, Kurenai questions, what's sadist? And Asuma laughs and remarks, I forgot, you're a new Jonin, Kurenai. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to ask that. And Kurenai responds, so I'm ignorant. Who is he? Kakashi raises his head and responds, he's what you might call a specialist. And Kurenai goes, oh yeah, and what? Asuma at this point takes a big drag off his cigarette and responds, interrogation and torture. Kurenai gasps, right? This is what the fuck? What do you have the guy who specializes in torture dealing with the kids? Remember, most of them aren't kids, right? Most of them are adults. The kids are kind of exceptional. But Asuma goes, oh, of course, he won't be using physical torture during the test. He won't need to. That's not really his thing anyway. He works on people's minds, not their bodies. At this point, it's showing us several of the genin in the exam, cracking mentally under the pressure that Ibiki has them under, right? He's just got these kids melting. Asuma then continues as it gives us a closer look at Ibiki. He's famous for it. Everyone knows about the head of the Anbu torture and interrogation corpse for the Hidden Leaf Village, Ibiki Morino. And damn, this guy is the head of the torture and interrogation corpse. The fact that there is a torture and interrogation corpse is terrifying. I understand an interrogation corpse. These motherfuckers are oh no, we done got torturing down to a science, and that's our torture scientist. That's what you need to think of whenever you think of Ibiki, is the torture scientist. The lead torture scientist, no less, for the Hidden Leaf. So yeah, he's the guy giving them their test right now. But at any rate, it takes us back to Naruto in the classroom, who's thinking, if even the rules are scary, what is the question like? Which is fair. Ibiki continues, very well then. Rule number 1. Each of you is free to choose not to be given the final question. It's your decision. Sasuke thinks to himself, say what? We're free to choose? Tamari, surprised, remarks, whoa, so what's the catch? Let's say we decide we don't want to do it. What happens then? And now, Ibiki said in the beginning there weren't no questions. And Tamari just asked 3. And she didn't let him finish the rules. That was one rule. It's safe to assume there's at least one more rule. She'd at least give this man one opportunity to get his full set of rules out to see if they all kind of explain one another. But I understand, high stress environment. In my heart of hearts, I was hoping that Tamari, because she was kind of mean with them during the Konohamaru experience previous, that she was going to get the hammer brought down on her, but they just kind of glaze over this transgression that I have noticed. And Ibiki just continues as though she ain't shit. If you choose not to take the 10th question, regardless of your answers on the other 9, you'll get a 0. In other words, you fail. And that means, of course, both of your teammates fail as well. The room collectively murmurs. Ibiki then continues, not so fast. You didn't let me finish. I guess that's the second time the classroom hasn't let this man finish on this particular subject. Sakura thinks to herself, more rules enough already. And Ibiki continues, if you do accept the question, but answer it incorrectly, you will not only fail, you will be barred from taking the Chunin exam ever again. And so this is wild, right? Let's run this down. You can choose not to take it, and you'll fail and your teammates will fail, but you can come back next year and try again. But if you try and fail, then you're just stuck as a Genin forever, I guess. Right? That seems pretty wild. A ninja's supposed to see through deception. That seems like some wild shit to me. But, I mean, we're going to see. At this point, Kiba stands up and points and yells, hey, that's bull, man. That's ridiculous. What kind of bogus rule is that? There's lots of people here who've taken the test before. And so there you go. And Akamaru even, I was going to let out some barks of agreements, but Akamaru lets out a couple little barks of agreements. And so, yeah, this is even better, right? There's even more evidence, right? Our gray-haired friend, Kabuto, he's on he's taken this several times now. And he certainly didn't say anything about anything like this. But I guess Ibiki can run things a little different. Yeah, he's got to be running things a little different. Ibiki chuckles and smiles and continues super menacingly style. I guess you're just unlucky. I wasn't making the rules before, but I am now. Of course, if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. If you're not feeling confident, then by all means, skip it. You can come back and try again next year. Lets out a little chuckle. Sakura, clearly frustrated by this entire display, thanks a lot. So if any one of us chooses to skip it, then all 3 of us fail. Forget it. That's not going to happen. But on the other hand, you only get one shot. Screw up and you'll never get another chance. Either way, it stinks. This is so unfair. Why couldn't they just give us a normal test? And it definitely seems like a lose-lose, right? It's definitely a high-risk situation in either direction, is the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Naruto looks on anxiously, and Hinata looks over at him. Ibiki then continues, now then, if you're ready, the 10th and final question. Those who don't want to take it, raise your hand. Your number will be recorded, and then you're free to go. Naruto anxiously questions internally, what could the question be? What if it's easy? What if it's not? If I get it wrong, I'll be a Genin for the rest of my life, the way things are going. But I can't just skip it, then we all fail. I can't do that to the others. So Naruto's clearly having like an internal conflict. He knows that he can't get it right, but he's not about to raise his hand and like compromise everybody else's ability to go. Like he's at least going to hear this question. Sakura thinks, well, I'm okay. He's not getting me to chicken out. No way. I'm raising my hand. Oh, but what about Naruto? He doesn't stand a chance. Go on, Naruto. Put your hand up. It's okay. Don't worry about us. There's always next year. Just think about yourself. And suddenly, the person sitting directly to Naruto's immediate left raises his hand and announces, I'm out. That's it. I'm out. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. And Ibiki calls out, number 50, fail. And a sentinel reads off his paper who number 50's teammates are and calls him out. Number 130, number 110. That means you're up too. And number 50 disappointedly goes, Genai, Inaho, I'm sorry guys. I'm sorry. That's it. I quit. Suddenly another raises his hand and goes, me too. And another raises his hand and says, I'm out. More and more students raise their hand and leave in defeat. Sakura continues thinking, go on, Naruto, why don't you raise your hand? And suddenly she flashes back to Naruto smiling and pointing at her while exclaiming, someday I'm going to be Hokage, and you'll look up to me. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, remember it. She then flashes to another memory of Naruto yelling out, ah, shut up. I'll do anything to become Hokage no matter what it takes. It then flashes to another memory of Naruto triumphantly announcing, to be the greatest Hokage. Then the whole village will stop disrespecting me and start treating me like I'm somebody important. Sakura continues to look on at Naruto while thinking, Hokage, Hokage. He's got a one-track mind. The dream's all he's got. It would kill him to have it taken away forever. But he's too stubborn to raise his hand. I can't let you do this to yourself, Naruto. She thinks on it and she goes to raise her hand, but right when she does this, she sees that Naruto is already raising his hand. He kind of starts slow, but he raises his hand entirely, and it shocks everybody, right? But like all the important characters, most notably Sakura, Sasuke, and Hinata. At this point, right, it anxiously takes us back to the lounge area at the academy where Asuma, Kakashi, and Kurenai are relaxing, and Asuma then continues. You see, this guy Ibiki, he's a master of interrogation because he understands how the human mind works. He knows just where to prod to uncover your weaknesses. The thing is, he's so good at his job, he doesn't use physical torture. He doesn't need to. He just messes up your head so bad you torture yourself. Back in the classroom, Naruto's hand is still raised, but suddenly he slams his hand down on the table and yells aloud, Don't underestimate me. I don't quit and I don't run. You can act tough all you want. You guys aren't going to scare me off. No way. I don't care if I do get stuck as a Genin for the rest of my life. I'll still be Hokage someday. The guitar solo rips and Naruto crosses his arms and sits down. And Hinata has like a huge smile on as she watches this unfold. Like, he just cannot get enough, right? Neither can I. I don't think anybody can. That's why we're all listening to this. Could not get enough. We went and found more. Sasuke chuckles and thinks he's completely clueless, but he's still going for it. The kid's got guts. I'll give him that. Sakura thinks, way to go, you crazy little fool. Ibiki then doubles down. This decision is one that could change your life. If for any reason you'd rather quit, now is your last chance. Naruto says, no way. I never go back on my word. That's the way of the ninja. The flute solo drops and you can see the rest of the classroom has been kind of invigorated by Naruto's display. Ibiki more or less confirms this and thinks to himself, that little outburst has given the others some backbone. He's inspired them into staying. 78 left. More than I expected, but I don't see anyone wavering. I think that's it. He looks over at the sentinels, and they all give him a nod one by one. Ibiki nods back to give the final nod and announces to the class, well then, I admire your determination. If nothing else, for those of you remaining, there's only one thing left to do, and that's for me to tell you, you've all passed the first exam. And that's right, they just passed. Naruto, shocked, drops his pencil, right? Like, can't even hold himself together. Sakura stands up and is shocked and demands, hold on, what just happened? What do you mean we passed? Where's the 10th question? Ibiki smiles real big and laughs real hard and reveals there never was one. Not a written one, at least. Actually, your decision to stay was the answer to the 10th question. That's some clever shit. The question was, how would you act in this circumstance? And if you acted correctly, you passed. Bam. That was neat. That's a neat little twist. And Tamari chimes in, wait a second, so the other 9 questions you gave us were just a waste of time? Is that what you're saying? And Ibiki answers, no, not at all. Quite the opposite. The first 9 questions had an important overriding purpose, to test your ability to surreptitiously gather strategic information under the most adverse circumstances. Tamari contentedly responds, oh, well, that clears up everything. Ibiki continues, let me explain. You see, my objective was to test you not only as individuals, but as a team, and how well you could function as part of that team. That's why the test was scored on a team basis, so you know that everything you did or failed to do would directly affect your teammates. I wanted you to see how you'd handle that pressure. Naruto nods and chimes in, yeah, I figured it was something like that. That's why I kept my cool. This fool didn't keep his cool at all. This fool was acting an ass the whole time. Sakura in the background thinks, yeah, right. Hinata gets a cute little chuckle out of the deal. Ibiki continues, the first 9 questions on the test were difficult. In fact, as you may have realized, too difficult for any Genin to be expected to solve. I imagine that most of you quickly came to that conclusion, that you'd have to cheat if you had any chance of passing. The fact is, the test was designed and encouraged cheating. It almost demanded it. At this point, like, flashes and shows Gaara using his Sandai. It shows Kankuro dropping his cheat sheets at Tamari. Shows Neji using his Byakugan, Sasuke using his Sharingan, Ino using her mind transfer on Sakura. They left out Kiba using Akamaru. They left out Shino using his bugs, but who's counting? Ibiki continues, of course it would have done you little good unless you had someone to cheat from. So I disguised 2 Chunin who already knew the answers and had them sit in with you. Like, they both wave. Naruto has a little internal meltdown and thinks, the answers were right in front of me the whole time. Naruto then laughs and says aloud, oh, come on, I wasn't fooled for a second. You'd have to be a complete doofus not to see it. Isn't that right, Hinata? Sasuke, seeing all of this unfold, thinks, incredible. So all of that time he never knew. Ibiki continues, those who were caught at it failed. Better not to cheat than to cheat clumsily. Ibiki takes off his bandana and the entire classroom looks on in shock as Ibiki continues. Information. It can be the most valuable weapon in battle. How well you gather intelligence can determine whether a mission is a failure or a success. It suddenly reveals what the class had been shocked and looking on at, and it's Ibiki's bald head that has like veins and scars and scabs all over it. And Ibiki continues, there'll be times you'll have to risk your life to get it. And Sasuke, looking at Ibiki's head, thinks, man, what a mess. Scars and puncture wounds, burn marks. What he must have endured. Ibiki continues, of course you must always consider the source of your information. Intelligence gathered from an enemy is not necessarily accurate. Always bear this in mind. Disinformation can be worse than no information at all. It can lead to the death of comrades or the loss of a village. That's why I put you in the position where you had to gather accurate intelligence. Cheat in order to survive. And that's why those who weren't good enough at it were weeded out, leaving the rest of you. Tamari responds, okay, but I'm still not getting what the 10th question is all about. Ibiki responds, you're not? The 10th question was the main point of the whole exam. Surely you see that. Sakura chimes in, sure, but explain it anyway. Ibiki continues, as I said before, the goal was to test you not only as individuals, but as part of a squad. The final question gave you two choices, both difficult. You could choose to play it safe and skip the question, though it meant that both you and your teammates would be failed. Or you could try and answer it, knowing if you get it wrong, you'd lose your chance at ever being Chunin. It was a no-win situation. But just the sort of situation Chunin have to deal with on an almost daily basis. For example, let me give you a hypothetical mission. To steal a document from an enemy stronghold. You have no idea how many ninja the enemy has or how heavily armored they are. Furthermore, you have reason to believe the enemy expects you, that you might very well be walking blindly into a trap. Now, do you have an option of taking a pass on this insane mission, or say my comrades would rather live to fight another day? Can you choose to avoid danger? No. There will be many missions that seem almost suicidal if you think about it. But you do not think about it. You think only of the goal and of achieving it through courage and discipline. These are the qualities required of a Chunin squad leader. Those who choose the safer of the two paths, those whose determination falters in the face of adversity, those who would put their comrades' lives in jeopardy by worrying about their own, those who would save their own necks at the price of sacred honor will never be able to call themselves Chunin, at least as long as I'm here. As for the rest of you, you've successfully answered the 10th question I put to you. You've earned the right to continue on to the next step. You've passed through the first gate. I hereby declare this part of the Chunin selection exams completed. There's nothing left but to wish you all good luck. And while he was giving that speech about the hypothetical situation, it was going through something that he had done. It was clearly, he was having a flashback of some shit that he did, right? And the man's got a point here, right? Like, the bottom line is that you're not going to fly if you don't leap out of the nest, right? You've got to fall gracefully. You've got to leap head forward into the dangerous situations if you're going to win, right? You can't be reserved. You can't you can't be hedging your bets whenever you're out there doing this type of stuff. You know, you've got to be living on the razor's edge as sharply as you can. And that's going to be the difference. And so Ibiki knows what's up. Ibiki super knows what's up. I also think that was the longest single bit of dialogue that anybody's had in the show to this point. I only had one little fumble, too. I feel like I did pretty good. It was determination was the word that got me. But either way, our Manny Biki knows what's up, and it seems as though he's also like clearly speaking from experience, right? He's got the scars on his head to show that he's learned these lessons the hard way, on top of being super smart. As soon as he goes, "There's nothing left but to wish you good luck," Naruto immediately screams with joy, "All right, we did it. That's one down. Yeah, woohoo, yeah." And he's just like exuberant. And Ibiki watches Naruto celebrate and thinks, he's a funny one, that kid. And suddenly, Ibiki sees something out of the corner of his eye, and an object comes hurling through the window. And suddenly, it's a ninja came bursting through the window, and this ninja throws several kunai in like every direction, and like it like drapes this tarp up. And as this is happening, Naruto is like panicking and yells aloud, "Is this part of the test?" And suddenly it's revealed that the tarp has completely blocked Ibiki, making a solid barrier between him and the class. And there's writing on the tarp. And Ibiki thinks, "Jump the gun as usual." And the ninja announces, "Heads up, boys and girls, this is no time to be celebrating. I'll be your next proctor, Anko Mitarashi. You ready for the second test? Good." She like pumps her fist in the air. "Then let's go. Follow me." And the students just kind of sit there stunned. And Ibiki peeks around the corner of the tarp and goes, "You're early again." And Anko blushes with embarrassment. And Sakura thinks, "Great, screaming nutcase. She reminds me of Naruto." Anko then questions, "How many are there? Ibiki, you let all these guys pass? Your test was too easy. You must be getting soft." Ibiki responds, "Or it could be a stronger crop of candidates this year." Anko looks out over the class and says, "They sure don't look it. Trust me, before I'm done with them, more than half will be eliminated." Sakura asks aloud, "Huh? More than half? Really?" And like an ominous beat drops, and Anko responds, "This is going to be fun. All right, you maggots, had it easy so far, but things are going to be different starting first thing in the morning. I'll let your squad leaders know where you're to meet me. Dismissed." And the Genin disperse, and Ibiki rounds up the tests from the desk, and he picks up Naruto's and sees it literally is blank. He like clutches his papers and he lets out a chuckle and thinks aloud, "I just passed a candidate who didn't answer a single question. Naruto Uzumaki. He's a funny one, all right." This is like the second time he's referred to Naruto as a funny one. Suddenly the wind blows and the tops of the trees wrestle, and Naruto remarks, "Whoa, nice place. What is it?" And it's revealed that they are all at like a big fence which has been locked several times over, that's surrounding like a dense forest. And Anko answers, "This is the location for the second phase of the exam. It's the 44th battle training zone, but we call it the Forest of Death." And the wind howls and Naruto questions, "Forest of Death?" And the episode ends. And not like an incredible amount happened in this episode. Something big happened, but there wasn't a whole lot to discuss, right? I mean, you could sum it up in like a few lines, right? They got the final question. We learned about Ibiki. The first part of the test was concluded, right? Everybody passed that we care about. We met Anko and we got introduced to the Forest of Death, right? All right, final thoughts over, really, if we wanted to sum it up. But, beyond that, we finally really got the final question to the first part of the tuning exam, which was a really cool thing, right? Like, the question wasn't actually a question that they asked them directly. It was a situation that they made them respond to, and how they responded to that situation was the answer to the question in and of itself. Neat way for things to play out. I know that I certainly wasn't I thought that there was some like fuckery about, right? It definitely seemed, like there was multiple layers of deception throughout this entire thing, right? There was deception. They were sending guys to the second floor instead of the third floor to start. They just like literally they were trying to trick people from even getting into the classroom. So I think it's if you're not like looking at everything that's happening during the tuning exam with like big sneaky hippo eyes, you're like looking at the tuning exams incorrectly. So yeah, but even then, it's a neat twist. It was a real neat twist how they did it. This dude Ibiki is something serious. He's legit the head of the Anbu Torture and Interrogation Corps for the Hidden Leaf Village, known by everybody according to Asuma. Wild to think that there is literally a torture and interrogation corps. Somewhat unsettling, right? It says something about the culture surrounding ninja culture in this whole verse, right? Our squadlings keep getting the hard route. Kakashi never passes anyone. Ibiki's the toughest proctor. They're going to the forest of death. Squad 7's path to victory is not without its trials. It turns out the question was, like I said, an elaborate setup, and how they were gonna respond to that was the answer to the question itself, and the rest of the test was really just a test for them to determine how well they could gather information under strict circumstances. Like, I really, really low-key feel like Ibiki was hyper aware of that extra sentinel, and like was pretty effectively on to what Kankuro was doing, especially with like the enlightening comment. Like, come on, he's a fucking torture expert. He knew what he was doing there. Sakura is low-key a sweetheart, right? Who believes in Naruto and his dream to become Hokage. She almost set them all back a year because she was really convinced, right? Like, so here's the thing. Sakura never sees through the deception type shit. Like, not the first time. Second time, like, she don't get pulled twice too often at all, right? But Sakura never sees through the deception so far in the series, right? She never pieced together this was like a whole thing to like actually cheat. She never realized that like you were supposed to cheat. And so she's messing up at some level, right? But she really like when in this moment almost raised her hand and got everybody set back because she didn't realize that it was like this trickery was about, and that she was really thinking that like that they were going to be Genin forever if Naruto didn't get that question right, or he was going to be a Genin forever, and that was going to be the reason he couldn't be Hokage, and like she couldn't bear playing part in seeing Naruto's dream of being Hokage not come to fruition, right? Like her priority in this situation when like the chips were down was to like see Naruto become Hokage, right? And so that was really cool. Like that was really, really cool. I thought that was really dope in its own way, right? There's some weirdness about it surrounding it, but like when it came right down to it, I think it's well intended and sweet. But luckily, like Naruto literally like yelled, and Ibiki wound up, yelling about how he's gonna be Hokage and like making his whole scene. I love that Naruto like invigorated the rest of the class, so that they didn't quit, and they like got more people to get through than expected, and that like literally Ibiki's test wasn't as successful at weeding out people because of how good Naruto is and how he like brings people together. Anko saying that she's going to weed out the rest, like over half of them, right? So we should expect somewhere in the ballpark of like 39 students left whenever this is all said and done. And she's taking them to the forest of death, right? It sounds very inviting. But, we're going to see what happens out in the forest of death, man. I would imagine that there's going to be some wild shit goes down out in the forest of death, but it's just something we're going to have to watch and see, right? They might talk outside the forest of death in 4 episodes. It's honestly been so long since I've seen this that I can't remember how long these arcs take and stuff. So I'm kind of buckled into a roller coaster with you guys on some of it. So we're gonna see, right? I'm gonna watch the next episode. I'm gonna produce a synopsis about it. I'm gonna make a podcast, and we're all gonna talk about it. And with that, I can put a bow on this episode. I really appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm Joshua. I'm your Konoha companion. I'm really looking forward to catching the next one with you guys. I'll catch you on the flip side.